One. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Innerviews, where we meet the people behind the businesses in South Africa. And today, I'm very excited to be introducing you to Theodore. Theo, please will you tell us a little bit more about what you do and why you do it?
Great. Thanks a lot, Melanie, for the invitation. It's a privilege for me to be with you and the viewers on this interview this afternoon. Well, I've got a very interesting journey. I started out as an academic. I was in the university space for it's about 20 years now, almost. And I am a full-time academic still, but over the last 5 years, I also went into business and academic coaching. And on both sides, I find a lot of reward in what it is that I do. Because on the one hand, as an academic, I'm a trained anthropologist. So I'm involved in lecturing students and also doing research and engaging with the many social issues and challenges that we are dealing with as a society. But as a coach, it also allows me the opportunity to be able to impact people's lives on an individual level. Because as an academic, I normally work with groups of students and I engage with the wider public out there through my research and my publications and so on. But as a coach, I'm able to actually work with people on a one-on-one level, on a one-on-one basis. And I feel that that's also where I can really make a significant impact. And I found that with business and academic coaching, those are really two areas that I'm very passionate about. And I think those are also two areas where I feel I can make the most impact. And I also think that these are the two areas where we as a society need the most help and support in order to help individuals to thrive and develop themselves in those two spaces. So as a business coach, I work mainly with small business executives, business owners, and entrepreneurs, and I help them to basically grow their businesses within a 12-month period. And I do that by using a 5-step business breakthrough system. And I normally, I don't really discriminate. I work with anybody who's a small business owner, but I want to actually specialize more in working with women entrepreneurs and business owners because of, as we all know, the challenges that women are experiencing in our country. And I just feel that by focusing specifically on women entrepreneurs and business owners, it allows me also the opportunity to be able to make a contribution towards women empowerment, helping them to also grow and develop and progress. And the thing that I also say in that same breath is we also need to be careful that we don't create the impression that that it's like a battle now, a competition between men and women for support or for training or for whatever resources are out there to help them to build their businesses as business owners. But it's about just trying to give everybody as equal an amount of support as possible. And I find that one of the resources that is really underutilized in this country specifically is the resource of coaching. And part of it is because many people don't really know what coaching is all about. But I think the other reason also is that people are, maybe because they don't know what coaching is all about and the value that it has, that they're not sure of how much it can contribute to helping them to reach their goals a lot faster. And that's part of the reason why I've got involved in coaching. And then as far as the academic coaching side is concerned, I normally there work with working professionals, non-academic working professionals who want to pursue postgraduate studies, either at master's or doctoral level. But because they don't have the academic background, many times they struggle in pursuing their postgraduate studies because of not having the experience of what academic life is all about. So especially when they are working professionals, then there are other dynamics also that come into the equation. where they've got to now find a way to balance their studies, balance, with their home life, with their professional lives and working life, and that can become a challenge. So I work with non-academic working professionals in order to help them to deal with those unique challenges that they have to deal with
Mm,
as people who are non-academics.
mm.
And so those are the two categories of coaching that I'm involved with, and the two types of clientele that I service with my coaching.
That's very interesting because you are very, very clear on who your niche markets are. How did you kind of decide that those were the two niche markets that you could best serve?
Yes, I think part of it is what I had explained a little bit earlier, where it's about where I've identified the need for coaching support.
Mm,
So what are the kinds of sectors that really need a resource like coaching?
mm,
So business is obviously one of them, and entrepreneurship, because I believe that entrepreneurship is really the key to helping us overcome a lot of the challenges that we are dealing with, not
mm,
only in this country, but globally for that matter.
mm,
And if you look all around us, all the problems that we have, all the challenges that we're facing, a lot of those challenges can be addressed through entrepreneurship or through business.
mm,
Because we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the purpose of business? The purpose of business, if you look at it superficially, of course, is to make a profit.
mm,
I don't think anybody can disagree with that. But if we look at it on a deeper level, the purpose of business is to solve problems.
mm,
And that is what has been, if you look at business throughout history, the most successful businesses are the ones that have been the most adept at solving the most pressing challenges and problems facing humanity.
mm,
And I mean, the COVID pandemic has just created a space. I know a lot of people are overwhelmed by the negative perception of what COVID has done worldwide, and not to dismiss that. But if you look at it from a different perspective, then the COVID pandemic has also opened up numerous opportunities for new businesses to come in and to deal with the challenges that have now become part of what everybody's calling the new normal.
mm.
So these challenges are going to now be with us for some time. So it creates a ripe opportunity for new businesses to start and to become involved in solving these challenges that have been brought by the COVID pandemic. So that's on the business side. Then on the academic side, again, one of the challenges that we've now had, well, of course, it came as a result of the COVID pandemic also, is the changes that are now taking place in the university system. All right. So on the academic side, I also identified that there's a need for coaching there because a lot of working professionals are wanting to pursue postgraduate studies, but also again because of the COVID situation that's now had a huge impact on the university sector and how universities uh, conduct themselves and conduct their business. A lot of changes are now happening also in the university space, so that automatically opens up the opportunity once again for support. So working professionals that are not coming from an academic background who want to pursue postgraduate studies find themselves in a situation where it's now become imperative because maybe before COVID they didn't really think about pursuing postgraduate studies because they become settled in their careers or settled in their working life or their professional life. But now COVID, with the losses of jobs and all of that, has necessitated the need for working professionals to upgrade their skills, upgrade their qualifications. And if it wasn't an imperative before, it definitely has become an imperative now. So there's probably going to be more non-academic working professionals that are going to be looking to qualify themselves further, but don't have the necessary support to be able to do so successfully
Mm,
because of the limitations that they have of not having come from an academic background.
mm,
So I see that also as an opportunity for me to come in and lend support to
mm,
people who fall into that category in
mm,
order to help them to achieve their goals of pursuing a postgraduate qualification but by making that journey as smooth as possible for them, by
mm,
providing them with the coaching support to help them to navigate the unique demands that they need to deal with as
mm,
non-academics compared to people who have become familiar with an academic environment.
mm, mm. I can see how that service would be very, very useful. And I'm
Yes.
sure a lot of people drop out of their studies because of a sense of overwhelm. Does that happen?
Yes, yes, definitely. We see working professionals obviously they need to pursue their studies on a part-time basis. And immediately you do for postgraduate qualification, you'd be doing it full time. At a master's level, it could take, anywhere between 2 to 3 years. And then for PhD, it could take anywhere between 3 to 5 years.
Mm,
Now, when you do it on a part-time basis, then automatically that extends the period of time that it will take a candidate to complete either of those qualifications.
mm,
So the idea then is, well, what I can do is I can actually help them to decrease the amount of time that it will take them to pursue a qualification. Because what sometimes happens also is that because of the extended period of time that it takes, either the motivation runs out somewhere down the line,
mm,
or they start picking up problems, changes in their work environment or in their work life, or changes in their personal life that can then have an impact on them and further delay them from completing their studies.
mm,
So all of these are factors that can play a role. So my job would be to help them to navigate these kinds of challenges if or when they happen, but also to help them to strategize what they are doing so that they are able to complete their studies in as quickly a time frame as possible,
mm,
so that they don't have to stretch it out above and beyond the time that is absolutely necessary for them to complete their
mm,
qualification.
mm. That makes absolute sense. I'm one of the ones who drop out early. I mean, I know who am I
maybe,
trying to
maybe we
kid?
should maybe we should have a chat.
No, no. I don't want to study. I'm still one of those people who has nightmares about being at school.
Oh, jeez.
So, what do you enjoy the most about your job?
I think it's the opportunity to educate people, because I think teaching has always been I think one could probably say that it's part of my genes. Because I've got a lot of teachers in my family, and my father was a teacher of sorts. He was a minister of religion, so obviously like a spiritual teacher.
Mm,
My brother's a high school teacher, and I of course then became a lecturer. So teaching is in the blood, as they say. So having the opportunity to be able to educate and inspire the next generation of citizens is I think what makes me passionate about what it is that I do.
mm,
And I mean, even as a coach as well, that also is a way for me to teach, albeit in a slightly different way to what I do as an academic. Because as an academic, you obviously do teaching in a much more formal way. You also teach by means of your research and publications, and engaging with the society out there on public platforms. But the kind of teaching that I do there is often more geared towards the kinds of social challenges and issues that we're dealing with as a society. But what coaching does, that coaching allows me to, as I said earlier, not only have the opportunity now to teach a client on a one-on-one level, but to do so in a way where I'm actually able to not teach the client on the basis of a preconceived curriculum, but to tailor or to customize what I teach or how I teach the client in a way that is going to make sense specifically for what the unique circumstances or experiences are of that individual client.
mm, mm,
And I think having that balance of the formal teaching on the one hand in the academic space, but then also the customized teaching of an individual client. I think that balance helps me to be able to use my ability to teach in a much more comprehensive or holistic way
mm,
than if I
mm,
was doing either one or the other,
mm, mm,
rather than being able to do both at the same time.
mm, mm. Absolutely, I have to agree. You sound like a man with a foot firmly in two camps and in charge of both.
Yeah.
So, your customers who you're working with these days, entrepreneurs who are out there, what do you find is their most common challenge that they're having right now, aside from COVID?
All right. Okay, there are two ways that I can approach that question. The first one is what I hear them saying are their most important challenges, and then what I observe as to what
Ah,
I see as the actual
yes,
challenges.
yes. I think
So
that's a very important
normally,
distinction.
yes, yes. So from their side, as the entrepreneurs, they normally experience a lot of challenges with working capital.
Mm,
So in other words, getting funding for their businesses and startups, and then also the challenge of social media marketing.
mm,
Those two things seem to be the two most common issues that I get asked about,
mm,
on Facebook and elsewhere, when you know dealing with clients or with potential clients, and even in the coaching sessions as well. A lot of the times, clients want us to deal with these particular kinds of issues, because they feel that those are the issues that are the most important determinants of business success. So from my side as a coach observing, I often find that the overemphasis on working capital and social media marketing actually preempts what are oftentimes the deeper challenges that many times entrepreneurs are not even aware of. And those deeper challenges include things like the inner work that they need to do. Because a lot of the time the focus is often put on the external, put on the operational or technical side of business, like the social media marketing and getting the capital. Those are operational, logistical, external, technical stuff. But very few entrepreneurs are actually thinking about the internal stuff. And I always say, we all know the common story of 98% or 90% of startups and ventures that fail in the first year or two. And for me, one of the reasons why we have that kind of statistic is because a lot of times entrepreneurs get themselves involved in entrepreneurship, but it's based on the entirely wrong perception or the wrong mindset of what entrepreneurship or what running a business is all about. So they see the fantasy, they think about the lifestyle, they think about making the huge profits and all that. But unfortunately, the wrong perception is that all of this stuff happens overnight. So when they get involved in the venture, and once they start experiencing what the reality is of running a business, and then suddenly things start to become a little bit murky. And that's often when you find that a lot of them will then just think of giving up or throwing in the towel, or saying, well, to heck with this, let me rather go back to my boring corporate job. And that's just because they didn't get into it with the right mindset. So I see that is actually a major challenge. And my job as a coach is to help business owners to deal with the mindset work, mastering their mindset and emotions. Because I feel that 90% of entrepreneurial success is going to come down to that. So that's the one thing. The other thing that I also observe is that many business owners don't really have a clear vision and direction for their business. They might have very airy fairy ideas of what it is they want to achieve, but when I ask them to really narrow it down and to get specifically focused on, all right, so what are your short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals, then they struggle because they haven't really thought hard and long about what are the specific things that they want to achieve, the specific results they want to achieve with their business. Yes, we can all say that, well, I want to have a huge profit or a huge turnover at the end of each year. But what does that look like practically? Talking about figures now, what is the actual figure that you are looking at?
Mm.
And there I find that there are two challenges. Either they haven't thought about the specific figures that they want to achieve that's going to make them feel that they've achieved success with their business, or they either dream too little, where they underestimate their potential of what they can possibly achieve, or they are completely unrealistic in terms of where they are at as individuals and as a business in terms of what they could realistically achieve within a certain time frame.
I do both
So I
of
think
those on one day.
so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So
Absolutely.
right,
My
right.
daily
So
struggle.
so are the main things that I think that I've observed as a coach
Yes.
that I perceive to be the deeper rooted challenges that many of our businesses and entrepreneurs face. But I think there is also a third one, and this is now specifically now talking about the the business owners that I regularly engage with on social media, and that is that a lot of them are looking for information or for strategies or advice on how to build successful businesses.
Mm,
But very few of them are actually seemingly prepared to take the necessary action to be able to do it.
mm,
And the impression that I get, therefore, is that a lot of the people on social media who are asking for advice on how to grow their businesses, I always get the sense that they are not really all that serious about it. It's pretty much still a hobby for them.
mm,
And that could be because they haven't really yet um, got to the point where they've decided now, said decisively, right, this is now what I want to do.
mm,
Because I think making that decision, being decisive about that, I think also immediately causes a shift in your mindset, because now you know, all right, now we the big leagues, this is now the big game.
mm,
And now I need to get focused, and I need to now start doing what I need to do in order to get there. Because the biggest problem with many of our business owners, especially the ones that I engage with on social media, is a lot of them know what they need to do
mm,
to build successful business, but they're just not doing it.
mm,
And then the question for me becomes, why aren't they doing it?
mm,
And that's when I start seeing, if I just observe a little bit of what the conversations on social media and the kinds of questions that people are asking, where I then get a sense that part of the problem could be that they haven't really totally committed themselves yet to
mm,
building a business. And secondly, they are not yet ready to take the decisive action that's needed to be able to start building the momentum and to progress.
mm,
And I think the part of the reason why that could be a challenge for them is because when you're at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, it still seems like you are standing at the bottom of Mount Everest, looking up at the top, at the summit. You don't even see the summit. And now you're thinking about, all right, now I need to get to the top, and now I've got this huge mountain in front of me that I need to climb in order to get there. So
yes.
there's that fear, there's that trepidation of, now do I take the first step, or do I now just stand there and look at the mountain and wish and hope and dream about what it'd be like to be at the top?
Mm,
And I think a lot of the young entrepreneurs who are on social media are in that space.
mm,
And my job, of course, now is to try and get them to, first of all, realize that it is possible to reach the summit. But success is inevitable, but only if you are prepared to work on yourself
mm,
and if you're prepared to do the work externally in order to achieve that success. And part of achieving success is failure. So just as success is inevitable, so is failure. But it's how you deal with the inevitability of failure
mm,
that will determine whether you reach the inevitability of success.
mm,
And a lot of the entrepreneurs are too afraid to take that step because of the fear of failure, because of the fear of what failing, of their perception of failure, which is another thing that I'm also trying to get people to change their mindsets around how they perceive failure. And and these are the kinds of things that can hold people back from really going out there and achieving the results in their businesses that they are looking for.
mm, mm. That's very, very insightful. And what would you say to entrepreneurs who've been in the trenches for 10, 15, 20 years and are looking for a reason to wake up in the morning? Because I know I deal with a lot of those as well.
Yes,
And sometimes it can be tough,
yes,
decades in, still kind of beating your drum and trying to stay upbeat,
right,
especially if you've ended up with a business that's kind of successful. So there's no
yes,
point in changing the model, but you've been doing the same thing for 20 years and you're bored.
yes. I think the best way to respond to that question is goal setting. Goal setting.
Mm,
The only way to keep progressing, the only way to keep building momentum, and this applies to anything that you want to do in life,
mm,
is you always need to be rethinking your goals. So if you set a particular goal and you reach it, you need to start thinking, okay, so what's the next goal that I can set for myself?
mm,
And normally what we need to do is we always need to seek to achieve higher and higher levels of goals.
mm,
So you can't set a goal, achieve it, and then if you come up with another goal, come up with another goal that's exactly on the same level as the goal that you've just achieved.
mm,
Because that's when you're going to start running into the kinds of challenges that you're talking about. So you always need to be looking at, firstly, finding new goals, but making sure that those new goals are at a higher level that will require more expenditure of energy and effort from your side to be able to reach them.
mm,
Because as human beings, we do have this thing. I don't know how much you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but self-actualization is sort of at the top of the pyramid of what it is that we crave, that we need as human beings. So we need to be constantly challenged,
mm,
because if you don't have that constant challenge, then that's when boredom will set in. And as soon as boredom sets in, there goes your motivation, and there goes your passion. And at the
mm,
end of the day, you find yourself stagnating. And the same also applies to people that want to pursue postgraduate studies. It's vitally important that that if you want to pursue your postgraduate studies, because the length of time that it's going to take you to complete it, that you must constantly be looking at how can you keep yourself motivated so that you stay on track and stay on this journey.
mm,
So the same applies to entrepreneurship or to business. If you're a business owner, your goal is to try and keep your business around for as long as possible.
mm,
So to be able to do that, what you need to do is you need to constantly be upgrading yourself as the business owner. You need to be constantly upgrading your skills, upgrading your knowledge and expertise of the industry or the business that you're in, constantly upgrading your understanding of the industry, your understanding of the market that you serve,
mm,
and what are the needs and the changes, because those things are constantly changing as well.
mm,
Not only upgrading yourself, but then also upgrading your your business goals, right? So I mean, you can't be happy with following precisely the same way of doing things or the same goals that you did last year or the year before.
mm,
You need to be looking at new goals and trying to make sure that those new goals are at a higher level
mm,
compared to the goals that you've achieved or accomplished before. I mean, that's how millionaires become millionaires. They set their first goal, which might have started off with something as simple as 100,000 a year.
mm,
But when they got to the 100,000 a year, they say, right, to what's next? 500,000.
mm,
And then they work towards getting to the 500,000 goal. When they got to the 500,000, what's next? Right, 750.
mm,
And so they were constantly pushing themselves to achieve higher and higher levels of goals until they were able to reach what many of us would consider to be, you can't go any higher than that. But the mindset, once again, is the sky's the limit.
mm,
So just because I've achieved this goal, it doesn't mean that I can't achieve an even better goal next time.
mm,
And so that is what keeps that momentum there, what keeps that motivation going. So
mm,
for business owners that have been in the game for 10 years or longer, if you feel that you are in a place of stagnation, um, the first thing is that it means that you are now in a comfort zone, which means that you've got a challenge of complacency. And I think if there's one thing that the COVID pandemic has done is that it's exposed the danger of complacency as a business owner. A lot of the businesses that have gone by the wayside due to the pandemic, a lot of them that happened to them because they were probably lulled into a false sense of security. Because what COVID has taught us is that the environment can change so suddenly and so drastically. And if you are not conditioning yourself as an individual and as a business to always be looking for new challenges, always be looking to upgrade yourself in a way that is going to make you more marketable and more responsive to the needs of society or the needs of the market, then you will end up falling into the trap of complacency. And then just when you feel that you are now where you need to be, everything changes and you find yourself in a very difficult spot.
Mm.
So I think that's probably the best way, I think, for business owners to make sure that they keep themselves sharp,
Mm.
so that when things like this happen, that they are not caught unawares, but that they will already have conditioned themselves mentally and otherwise to constantly be looking at new ways of improving themselves and improving their businesses,
Mm.
so that they already will have a leg up on the competition
Mm.
and be able to take advantage of the new changed environment a lot faster than other businesses or business owners who have not been working on you know achieving new goals or upgrading themselves so they can keep being responsive to the changing demands of society.
Wow, you have shared so much food for thought today. Thank you so much. You've co-created a lot of value with me today, and I think that
That's
everybody who watches this video is going to learn a lot from it. Thank you for your generosity to share.
super, super. If I may, there's just one more thing that I'd like to say before we say goodbye. That is, for any business owners and entrepreneurs that are on the call, I know that this year has been really tough. And in normal times, without a pandemic, that's all over the place. In normal times, when it gets to the end of the year, that's when a lot of people start thinking about, have they achieved their goals for the year, or what kinds of goals they now want to achieve the following year, etc. And I think that's probably even more so now because of the COVID pandemic, because obviously it's really thrown a lot of people's lives into complete chaos and disarray. So what I'm doing is I've got a free business breakthrough coaching session that I am making available for any business owners or entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses in the next year. So it's an opportunity that I'm making available. So if anybody is interested and would like to take advantage of that, then they can feel free to contact me to schedule a session with me. Because I think now is the time for business owners and entrepreneurs to really get focused on what it is that they want to achieve next year.
Mm.
Might not have been able to achieve it this year, but there's still time.
Mm.
And all they might need is just a little bit of direction so they know exactly how they need to do it. And once they have that information, that will then make things a lot easier for them in the coming year to be able to achieve their goals.
Mm.
So that's what I'm just putting out there for your audience. And those that are ready to take action, now is the time to do so.
That's awesome. Thank you. I will include the link to the offer in the description of this video for anybody who's watching. Thank you so much for that generous offer.
Excellent.
And
Great.
Theo, if somebody would like to reach you any other way, how can they find you?
Sure. All right. My email address is theo@tsplifeskills.co.za.
That's awesome. I'm just writing that down for myself too.
Sure. Great. And then my WhatsApp or cell number is 0722 843 156.
Okay.
Right. So
That's,
they anybody whether WhatsApp or voice call or email, any of those contact details you can use.
that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity to share today. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Super. I really enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you again for the invitation. And I hope that a lot of people will find value in what we're talking about this afternoon. Thanks a lot, Melanie.
Pleasure.